Mjallby AIF, the club based in the small town of Hellavik, which has a population of just under 1,500, have just forever etched their names into footballing folklore after being crowned domestic football champions of Sweden. It was the club's fourth ever honor in their 86-year history, and they did so against the odds. So, how did the club, based in a tiny fishing town, assert themselves as champions of the nation's premier footballing division? This is the story of Mjallby AIF. Mjallby were founded on the 1st of April 1939 when a group of local football enthusiasts decided that the area needed a club of its own. Despite only competing in the lower tiers of Swedish football, the club was able to gather a loyal fan base from the very start. They climbed to the first tier of Swedish football after achieving promotion to the Allsvenskan in 1980, where they lasted for one season. They achieved promotion multiple times throughout the 80s and 90s and established themselves as a yo-yo club. The 2000s saw some more regular mid-table finishes, and Mjallby established themselves as a regular top-flight side. The club suffered back-to-back relegations in the 2010s and found themselves in the third tier at the start of the 2016 season, despite being the Allsvenskan just 2 years prior. They finished 8th in the third tier in 2016 and stayed in the division for an additional 2 seasons until finally achieving promotion back to the second division in 2018 after winning the league title. They repeated the feat the next season when they were once again promoted back to the Allsvenskan for the first time since 2014. Mjallby managed 3 consecutive mid-table finishes and achieved a 5th place finish in 2024, gathering 14 wins in 30 matches. Then, the 2025 season rolled around, and everything changed. There's something rather peculiar about Mjallby. They didn't have a massive financial impact. They were active in the transfer market, however, their fees were in the hundreds of thousands, when their Allsvenskan counterparts were spending well into the millions. Their entire squad cost just under 17 million, which is the 9th most valuable in the league. Keep in mind that Allsvenskan only has 16 teams, meaning that Mjallby were actually in the bottom half of the league value-wise. It's not like their backroom staff underwent significant changes or anything. Manager Anders Torstensen had been at the club since 2023. Perhaps the most interesting part of the Mjallby fairy tale is the fact that they relied on homegrown talent. 18 of their 26 squad members are from Sweden, and many of them even hail from the local area where the club is located. Now that we know the background of Mjallby, let's have a look at how it actually went down. Mjallby started off with 2 points in the first 2 games, after a draw with Elfsborg away and Gais at home. They claimed the first win with a 3-0 win over Häcken away from home, and this is where things started to pick up. Mjallby won 4 of the next 5 matches, and by the end of match week 8, they found themselves 3 points away from first place AIK, who dealt them their only loss of the season. Mjallby's goal difference at this point was 10, which was the second highest in the league. The next week, Mjallby started off Djurgårdens IF by a scoreline of 3-1, and AIK dropped points after a 3-3 draw with Häcken. Mjallby were now level on points with third place Hammarby and just 1 point behind AIK. Match week 10 had a lot on the line. AIK and Hammarby were facing off against each other head-to-head, and Mjallby were up against Brommapojkarna, who entered the weekend in 11th place. AIK and Hammarby's clash ended in a 0-0 draw, and Mjallby got the better of Brommapojkarna 1-0. Mjallby, the club based in a town with a population of under 1,500, were on top of the Allsvenskan. They finished match week 10 with 23 points, clear of Elfsborg and AIK, who had 22 each. Mjallby had title rivals Hammarby in the next match, who they saw off 2-1 for a key victory. A draw against Norrköping a week later saw them drop points, and they remained in top spot off a goal difference, level with Hammarby on 27 points. Fast forward to 3 weeks later, in a Mjallby victory over IK Sirius, combined with Hammarby losing 3-2 to 6th place Gais, saw Mjallby once again take top spot. They topped the league table with 34 points, 1 point above second place Hammarby, and 3 points over third place AIK. Mjallby were once again in the top spot, but the pressure was on. With 15 games down and 15 to go, Mjallby had quite the task ahead of them, but it's one that they rose to. Mjallby defeated third place AIK in their next match, and added 3 points to the cushion between them and the Stockholm side. 2 weeks later, and they had another big game against 4th place Malmo, in which they emerged on the better side of a 3-1 scoreline away from home. By the end of match week 19, Mjallby found themselves 4 points clear of Hammarby, and 10 points clear of third place Elfsborg. They won 3 of their next 4 matches, only dropping points after a 1-1 draw with Djurgården in match week 20. By the end of match week 23, Mjallby had accumulated 56 points. They're now 10 points clear of second place Hammarby. Ever since their defeat to AIK back in May, they hadn't lost a single game in Allsvenskan, winning 12 and drawing 3. Mjallby, who once saw consistent top-flight football as a distant dream, were now closing in on their first ever Allsvenskan title in their 86-year history. Match week 25 rolled around, and Mjallby and Hammarby were scheduled to kick off at the same time. Hammarby fell 1-0 to 12th place Halmstad, and Mjallby got the better of 9th place Brommapojkarna by the same scoreline. Mjallby increased their lead to the top to 11 points. They were turning up time and time again against some of the biggest names in the country, and they hadn't lost a league game in over 4 months. It was only a matter of time. Monday, the 20th of October, was a fateful day. Mjallby beat Gothenburg 2-0 and won 11 points clear with 3 games to spare in the league. They had done the impossible. The squad value was less than half of the highest in the league. They'd come off the back of just 2 top 5 finishes in the past 5 years and come from a town with 1% of the population of Burnley. The fishing village on Sweden's south coast went head-to-head against the country's greatest footballing challenges, and not only did they survive, but they emerged on top. They went on a 19-game, 4-month-long unbeaten streak and had the best goal difference in the league by 8. It wasn't just triumph. It was sheer and utter dominance, and it went against all rules of logic. Usually, I like to provide some sort of explanation. How did Mjallby win the league this year? Why did it happen? Why did Greece win the Euros in 2004? Why did Liverpool win the Champions League in 2005? Why did Leicester City win the Premier League in 2016? Sometimes football just creates moments of pure magic that nothing else comes close to. In an age where the game is exceedingly being tarnished by greed and corruption at the expense of the fans, a team with small numbers behind them but grand ambitions in front of them is even more special. You can dive into it all you want, but football is fundamentally a simple game. In football and in life, sometimes the unexplainable happens, but that doesn't mean it isn't earned or well-deserved. Mjallby AIF have shattered the glass ceiling that's put on clubs of their size, that's put on clubs with their background. And although occurrences like these may be rare, it doesn't change the truth behind an idea that Mjallby has very much affirmed, not just recently, but in the past couple of months. The idea that anything is possible.